Um, Pleasure to join you this morning. We'll be today talking about the importance of capital budgets in order to maintain attractive, well-functioning communities. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and we'll kick it off. And as Sarah said, any questions, by all means, put in the chat box, and we'll try to address as we go along. All right, can everyone see the screen okay?
Yep, we're good to go.
Perfect. As Sarah said, my name is Frank Muraca. I'm the president of Arch Consultants, and joining me today is Scott Haberkorn, our senior project manager here, who heads up a number of our facility assessments in particular, really nationwide. Arch Consultants has been in business over 20 years, so this is a big anniversary for us. We specifically specialize in senior living environments, in addition to facilities assessments and facility management support. We also provide owner representation to implement projects. Really wanted to start with just an overview of anyone's process, really, but on the chart there, you'll see a cyclical building process, beginning with assessment, which is typically where a facility assessment might occur, moving into planning, where organizations may plan for capital expenditures and budget for on a yearly basis the operational needs. There might be some design or engineering that needs to be done, and then eventually, obviously, solicit pricing, and ultimately during construction, either replace that capital asset, install it, or do some refurbishment. And then you come full circle and then obviously maintain the operations and the physical plant of the community and facilities over the long term. So today we're going to focus in on how one might go about budgeting capital expenditures and not only monitor them over time, but how to prioritize and possibly attend to those needs that need to occur in the short term versus those that might be able to wait to the midterm, and then maybe some long range planning objectives the organization has that the forecast should be mindful of. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Scott.
Morning, everybody. I'm Scott Haberkorn. I'm a project manager with Arch Consultants. And if you look at our color chart, I have been heavily involved in the full range of colors. Today's presentation will focus mostly on the dark blue on the far right. So what are capital expenditures, and do they apply to me or our audience today? And yes, they do. You'll see we have represented here on the slide most of the leadership team and how capital expenditures could affect each department and person within the facility, beginning with the senior leadership, the facility staff, executive directors, marketing staff, or the nursing staff. And for senior leadership, it could be a long-range capital planning activity, or for facilities, they may have a preventive maintenance plan or budget they want to update, or executive directors might have something in their annual budget management and provide more information for their staffing plans. And of course, the marketing staff is also important. They want to maintain their census and be able to turn over available inventory. And then the nursing staff may have capital needs to keep up their licensing. You can change to the next slide. Why capital expenditure budgets matter. You might have a repair cost that may need to be done. If it's not done, you'll have maintenance that's deferred, and this will impact your campus or facility image and first impressions. You also want to be competitive within your local market and be ready for any natural disasters or repairs that may be related to that. And you also want to keep the residents satisfied and safe. The capital expenditure budget will also guide you in future decision making. Any projects you want to start or get ready for in the future. So if you have in the past not been the best with capital planning, you may want to talk about preventative maintenance. And for instance, you may need a new roof or a new boiler. Either of those two have a life expectancy, so you'd want to plan for those as soon as possible.
One of the things I'd add is, anytime you can put yourself in a position to plan for expenditures, you can sort of get a bit more proactive on addressing capital needs, and hopefully have the ability to put it on a preventative maintenance plan, as Scott said. Ultimately, sometimes an issue will come up that just needs to be addressed. One of the benefits of a long-range capital plan is to try to level out the expenditures over time, so you don't have extreme spikes in any given years. Here is a source of information from CARF, which looks at average age of facilities. What's interesting over time, you'll see the green bar indicating single site organizations, the gray line multi-site. And over time, there's been some dips up and down, but on the left, it tracks what the average age of the facility is. And interesting enough, in recent years, for multi-site, the average age of the physical plant has come down slightly. For single sites, it's gone up. So the average age goes up, obviously. It's an indicator of the age of the community. What typically would affect this is we spent a little bit of time this morning talk about routine capital maintenance. Oftentimes when projects are done that are more significant, remodel a wing, refurbish a cafe, those type of new projects, if you will, or repositioning projects ultimately will bring down the average age of the entire facility or community. So I think depending on an organization's ability to have completed significant projects over the last couple of years, given everything going on, it isn't uncommon that the average age of physical plant might creep up. Scott?
The capital budgeting process, we want to be able to gather information and assess the conditions of the facility, and then we would compile the cost of replacements and any improvements that may be needed. And we have some additional slides that will show you how we go about doing that and what we use for gathering information and then making any forecast assumptions that may be a result of the information gathering. This chart is a simple spreadsheet that divides the information into groups and areas of the building, exterior, interior, and then any other aspects of the facility assessment, whether it be the site or the individual units, and any escalation cost that may be included. And this is really how we represent the information gathered and the numbers by year, spread out over 10 years. And it's again broken up by exterior, interior, and in any internal components of the building, such as elevators, mechanical systems, HVAC, and fire alarm. And of course, the exterior grounds that may be needing attention. And this chart is really a result of the prior information gathering, and gives you sort of a visual of information gathered by year and areas.
And what I'd add here is NIC recently published information on looking at today's senior living reality. Some of their data suggests that existing inventory is old, and let me put a little framework around that. 42% of those in their survey set of existing inventory is 25 plus years old. So the importance of keeping up with CapEx needs is critical to show your community in the best light possible. These two graphs we really wanted to show, illustrate maybe two takeaways that we felt were important. On the left, as Scott said, breaks down capital expenditures by building component. So you'll see in the varying colors, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, another category, the overall grounds, then the interiors of the building and the exterior of the building. The chart on the right is the same CapEx numbers over a 10-year period, but slice and dices the numbers in a different format. It looks at breaking up the cost by programmatic elements. It's just a visual description of, in this particular example, how costs peak around 2023 in order to, again, in this case, catch up on some capital needs, and then levels back out. The data out there in the industry for average age of costs as it relates to capital expenditures varies tremendously, not because of lack of transparency, but depending on unit mix and count and age of buildings, it's very difficult to compare apples to apples. So we really like to suggest, whatever your format is for your budgeting, to have a mechanism that suits the organization to break down the costs in a manner that makes it useful for your organization, and be consistent with that formatting over time, because it'll help you monitor and track and deploy capital resources in a deliberate manner. So we're pushing up against 15 minutes, but did want to thank everyone for their time this morning. We will provide the handout to Sarah to distribute, but if there's any remaining comments or questions, we'd be happy to answer or put something in the chat box.